So there's this cutesy gacha game called Infinity Nikki, and the game is developed from the Chinese studio Paper Games. But did you know that there's a big problem with this game? Yeah, the lack of diversity. It's just terrible. Well, at least according to Reddit. So let's take a look at their explanation, shall we? A top post on the subreddit Infinity Nikki with over 1,300 upvotes from 4 days ago reads, I think this game could do better in the diversity department. And they go on to explain their reasoning why. Some of these things could be seen as fair points, others not so much, of course, depending on your opinion. But let's hop down to the disclaimer, because that's where things get especially amusing. Disclaimer. Bold. Before y'all start acting weird and talk about how the devs are Asian, so there's no way this could happen. Shut up. Asian devs have done it before. It's not out of the question. Just look at Nintendo, Animal Crossing, Splatoon, Pokemon, just to name a few. It's possible. Some people just don't want to do it. However, a certain response would point out the irony with the OP, this one reading, in regards to your disclaimer, all that you mentioned are Japanese devs / companies. That's why they're more diverse. Chinese companies do not have the same leisure or leeway like Japanese companies do. That's not an excuse. That's just the reason. The OP really didn't like that response, saying to that person, sadly, this excuse also does not work, because Lilith Games doesn't struggle with skin tone diversity at all. It's a skill issue, honestly. The other person, Renvi, saying, like I said, not excusing them, just pointing out all your examples are of Japanese games / companies. The discourse pointing out this irony in the OP would continue here in this response that reads, also, it's incredibly ignorant to believe that all of Asia share the same views on diversity, and then proceed to give examples of exclusively Japanese games. Someone else saying, you're right. It's really bigoted to try to pretend Western ideologies and cultures are superior to Eastern ideologies. They should make the games that they want. If they want everyone in the game to be Asian or whatever, it's their choice, and they are not wrong for doing so. The West tends to be very racist against Asians overall. Not every game needs to be diverse in favor of some races at the expense of Asians. Trying to force games to be diverse is why Ubisoft is soon going to be put out of business unless they change. So yeah, once again, whether you agree or disagree with the OP, it's certainly funny that they would complain about diversity, only for them to turn around and act like all Asian people are the same. Elsewhere in the responses, the brain rot would continue, with this response to the initial post, the OP saying, on top of all that, the facial features of Nikki are 200% white, so it's already very uncanny valley to dress up a black character in this game most times. However, they would get responses such as, they're anime featured, they're not white, they're not human, the girl doesn't even have nostrils, she doesn't even look like the NPCs. But we're not getting new facial features because Nikki is a character, and she has a face already. Someone else saying, Nikki is Chinese though, so her facial features are more like East Asian, but anime. All the major characters look more like anime than the NPCs. The OP, however, has a different response saying, agree with this too, would love some black features. Responses to that post including, Nikki is her own character though, they're not going to change her face, and there's only one playable character in this game, and that's Nikki herself. And a similar set of responses could be seen here. This response to the OP saying, also, body size diversity would be amazing. The OP saying, wanted to say this too, but didn't want to get cooked. And this other person, Ash Maiden, saying, I agree. Back when Love Nikki came out, I saw an ad that showed the game had different body types, but that turned out to be a lie. The game was still fun though. At the very least, IN has fat NPCs that aren't just old people. Now if we could have different body types for Nikki, to which, once again, people point out that it wouldn't be Nikki anymore, and that in this game you play as Nikki, not some self-insert character. And finally, let's take a look at this exchange. The OP saying, I can't believe it either. There was also a dark skin set where they had a pale skin version of it. It was bad. Really bad. User Hot Coco saying, I'm confused why you're mad because they had a white version of black makeup, or what? Like, I'm confused why you're upset. The OP saying, yes, they whitewashed an entire suit for no reason. So that's also really weird. They claim to want more diversity, but then they get upset when some of the outfits and or makeup isn't segregated. So yeah, ultimately, I just thought that was all pretty amusing. It's kind of funny how even a cutesy and innocent sort of game like this can still end up getting heat for lack of diversity and or people who want to make everything into a self-insert, etc, etc. And of course, the ignorance in the OP regarding Asia. It all makes for a fun little segment on New Year's Eve. I hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of the year. Consider liking and or subscribing if you enjoyed the coverage, and I'll see you in the next one.